to talk to us about anything?
I don't think so. I mean, this first one.
If we need an alternate, he's not even first.
Amendment.
First alternate first.
Second one, the first one's accepting their.
Because he says he wants to.
Okay, yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot about that one. Just I mean,
It was kind of anything to learn. To even know. So.
John, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Well, Outlook shouldn't be a problem. It should automatically update.
my computer still uses the old. That's my phone. Because that's the size. Exactly.
I know
It's not prompting you for.
Because like you go in here, you can normally go into your account and you can log in.
But he just noticed it.
They changed the minutes.
Okay, it's not a big deal, but I figured I'd say
No,
something
but so we don't have to amend the.
That's what I thought.
So, what I'll do is I'll mention that the draft minutes that are before us, and go from there.
No big deal.
Like he said, he's gonna cut and paste once he screwed up.
Well, that's what I figured. Do just fix it now. So it's easy.
I was going to tell him, I said, but hell, at least you call him Kyle. I call him everything else under the sun.
Phone silent. So.
Just don't.
Yeah, I know you know. And yeah, everybody spells it KYL.
The only other thing is
It's been what we've dealt with all along. So.
Go through like they often are next to file with.
There's a section about between office.
Early on,
I didn't see it.
Elaine.
The only I saw.
Then you pick up and that sound like Elaine.
I know they have it. They have it on here. Okay, but they when the criteria.
I also got
They listen the criteria
first and called me Clam, which became.
There's also criteria.
Outdoor player clams. Everybody look at this clam. So I had one just like yes, it was supposed to be like her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. Got all three from us.
Covered all their bases.
They didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
That's what I was. It just makes you want to be even more. psychological. Usually there's something unpacked there with that. People call me Kyle as my first name. You get used to it. I mean, you get used to it in gym teacher and elementary school. I can remember stuff from that point.
Hey, Greg.
Oh, thank you.
My brain just needs some oxygen.
Would have enjoyed that. I was by my family called Noel a lot of times. Especially at Christmas.
Right. Presents. It's funny.
Nothing wrong.
Feels funny sitting so close together.
I know. I was thinking that too. Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
For now.
No. All 6 hours. I know, I listened to it on Zoom. I could. Back to Jason. That was an interesting 6 hours. I couldn't bring myself to listen to that. All I can say is a second. There was a lot of good speakers. And there were a lot of way out the right speakers. We'll finish signing those before we start. Semi-consistent. Yeah. Consistency was a requirement I would never pass. Rachel, you ready, Nate? Nate? Are you ready? You ready? Okay. This time I'll call the July meeting of the East Hempfield Township Zoning Hearing Board to order. Members present this evening are Mr. Hanson, Mr. Kyle, Mr. Bingham, and myself, Elam Herr, Chairman. Also, on your far right and on our left, we have our Township Zoning Officer. And with us also, we have on our right, your left, our Solicitor. We also have this evening a court reporter present taking minutes. We have 2 new cases this evening and 2 continued cases. This board will hear each case in an informal matter without strict compliance with the rules of procedure used in a court trial. We'll ask each applicant and any individuals interested in a particular case step in front of our table and explain the circumstances involved in their application. Applicants may present their case themselves or through their attorneys or other representatives. My fellow board members and I, as well as the solicitor, may ask the applicant questions from time to time during the applicant's presentation or at its conclusion. All persons having an interest in the application will be given the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, to offer evidence of their own, and to inform the board of their position on the matter. In the interest of a prompt and orderly disposition of each case, we asked interested people to refrain from speaking until the applicant's presentation has been completed and the board has had the opportunity to question the applicant. At the beginning of each case, people who are interested in that case should decide whether they desire to be parties to it. By being given the status of a party, that person will be entitled to receive notice of the decision in that case and will be entitled to participate in any subsequent appeal or rehearing. Individuals who are not given party status may nevertheless ask questions and present evidence, but will not receive notice of the decision and will not automatically be entitled to participate in any appeal or subsequent rehearing. If you desire to be a party, we will ask that you sign an entry of an appearance form at the appropriate time. And although each party will receive a written copy of the decision, the mechanics of typing and signing the decision takes approximately 4 weeks. We ask that each person who asks a question or makes a statement first state his or her name and address for the court reporter. Now, lastly, in the interest of time, I will administer the oath or affirmation to all applicants and to everyone and anyone who anticipates making any statement with respect to any of the hearings this evening. So at this time, will you all rise, please? Under penalties of perjury, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say, I do. I do. Thank you. Please stay standing. We'll salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Nate, the cases this evening have been duly advertised in accordance with the Sunshine Law and the municipality's planning code.
Yes, they have.
Gentlemen, you have before you a revised draft copy of the minutes of June 21st, board minutes of June 21st. The draft that was sent to us needed correction. The correction was made prior to the meeting. The correction was only the spelling of a name. So if there are no additions, deletions, or correction to the minutes, board minutes of June 21st, 2021, I'd ask for a motion to approve as submitted. Moved by Mr. Kyle. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Bingham. Any discussion, gentlemen? Mr. Hanson?
In favor.
Mr. Kyle?
In favor.
Mr. Bingham?
In favor.
And I also vote in favor. The June 21st, 2021 board minutes have been approved as submitted by the secretary. Nate, old business.
First case is number 2420, new singular wireless PCS for 1290 Roarstown Road. They submitted a withdrawal of special exception and variance requests.
Okay, gentlemen. First of all, is there anyone here? Let me back up so everybody knows what's going on. Not only are we in person this evening, we're also on Zoom. So there may be people making comments during the evening on particular cases that are not in the audience, but on Zoom. So with that, is there anyone here from New Singular Wireless PCS Limited AT&T Mobility or on Zoom? Seeing none. Gentlemen, the township had received June 15th a letter from Christopher Schubert, which is the attorney for AT&T and New Singular Wireless, asking that the case number 2420 be removed from consideration of this board. Since they're not here, we will go on their request of the letter. They are withdrawing their application. We just need to approve it for the minutes. So can I have a motion to approve the request of Christopher Schubert, attorney, in case number 2420 to remove such case from our agenda and consideration?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion in case number 2420, based on the letter submitted to the township and through our application process dated June 15th, 2021, from Riley, Ripper, Holland, and I'm not going to try and pronounce the last name, to withdraw their case as requested.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Hanson to approve the request of Christopher Schubert of the law firm RRH&C. I'll make it easier that way, to remove their request for consideration by this board on the placement of small cells. Motion is to accept the request and remove this from our agenda. Do I have a second, gentlemen?
Second.
Mr. Bingham seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Hanson.
In favor.
Mr. Kyle. In favor. Mr. Bingham.
In favor.
And I'll also vote in favor. Case number 2420 has been removed from this board's consideration. Nate, please notify Mr. Schubert the action that the board took.
I will.
Next case. Nate.
Case number 2426, Oak Tree Outdoor Advertising LP for 2260 Dairy Road. They would like an amendment to their decision.
Okay, is anyone here from or representing Oak Tree Outdoor Advertising in case number 2426?
Can you state your name again? I didn't catch it.
Is that, Nate, is that mic on?
It was.
I caught it the second time. I just didn't catch it the first time.
I only saw the one.
Just while they're going through that for the audience, make sure you speak into the mic presentation for two reasons. One is so everybody in the room and on Zoom can hear what's going on, and two, make sure our court reporter is able to hear everything. Ms. Schenk, you were going to say something?
Yes, I'm going to ask to continue this matter till your August hearing.
Well, that makes it easier. Before we do that, though, is there anyone in the audience that wanted to be a party to this case at this time? Seeing none. Okay.
I have a question for the.
Before we go with our request, Mr. Hanson.
So, Ms. Schenk, to me, this is a very simple request for a decision here. Why do you feel you need to continue with it?
But respectfully, with the 3-2 vote that we had the last time, and only 2 board members here that voted in favor and 2 that voted against, I wasn't sure if you would see it that way or if you would see it as a change from prior.
Okay.
Okay. With that, gentlemen, we have a request from Ms. Shank, who is from McNeese, which represents Oak Tree Outdoor Advertising, to continue case number 2426 to our next scheduled meeting, which is August 16th?
Correct.
August 16th. Can I have that as a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hanson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kyle. Any discussion, gentlemen? Seeing them, Mr. Hanson?
In favor.
Mr. Kyle?
In favor.
Mr. Bingham?
In favor.
Also vote in favor. Ms. Shank, your request has been granted. We will have your case scheduled for the August 16th meeting. Thank you.
That cleared half the room.
Okay. Thanks, John. Nate, next case, please.
Case number 2431, Environmental Recovery Corporation, 300 Richardson Drive, seeking a special exception for use not provided.
Okay, is anyone here from Environmental Recovery Corporation or their representative?
Yes, Peter Ruth on behalf of the applicant from Stock and Leader, and also present is
Peter Haggis, Vice President of Environmental Recovery Corporation.
The first Peter, your last name was?
Ruth, R-U-T-H.
Oh, thank you.
Just like the baby.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to be a party to this case or on Zoom? Seeing none, Mr. Ruth, would you please state your name again and address for the record and present your case?
Yes, I will. Peter Ruth, on behalf of Environmental Recovery Corporation. My firm is Stock and Leader, L-E-A-D-E-R. The address is 221 West Philadelphia Street, Suite E as in East, 600. That's York, PA, 17401. The property in question this evening that we're here before this board is for 300 Richardson Drive. That's Lancaster, PA, 17603. It is currently located in the Enterprise Zoning District, also within an industrial park off of Richardson Drive. The nature of the request this evening is for a use not provided for. That would be pursuant to Article 1, Section 270-1.9. The proposed use is the installation and operation of a non-hazardous wastewater pretreatment facility. The property is currently owned by LWM Enterprises. It was purchased in 2016. LWM is an entity that is owned by the president of ERC. So there is, although not a direct subsidiary, there is an affiliation between those two entities. Really, the nature and why we find ourselves before you tonight is that, as I indicated, the pre-treatment facility for non-hazardous wastewater is not a use necessarily designated within the zoning ordinance. However, upon review, it does appear that the Enterprise District would likely be the most suitable zoning district for that use in terms of compliance. Before we go any further, I just want to confirm we have 3 exhibits. The first one just being the zoning application itself. The second, exhibit 2, would be the description of request on ERC letterhead.
This one?
Yes, sir.
That was part of your application.
That was okay. And then the last one should be the map. And if that, I think that was submitted with the application as well.
Yes.
Okay. So all of those, we'll basically just be referring to those 3 documents this evening.
Okay, so instead of individual marking of the exhibits, they'll be part of the application and you'll just reference them.
That would be fine. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As I indicated, the property was acquired in 2016. It currently sits on 4.5 acres. And what the applicant is trying to do, as I said, is this pre-treatment facility. There have been certain pre-approvals that have been obtained, first and foremost from the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, and the second one from the Lancaster Area Sewer Authority. And I will ask Mr. Hagee to touch a little bit more in terms of what those approvals are and what the maximum amount of treatment can be in light of those approvals.
Well, Mr. Ruth, before
Yes.
you go on, you've talked about approvals from DEP, and I believe you're going to say something about LASA also giving you approval.
That is correct. Pre-approval, yes, sir.
Would you, as a condition, would you submit those approvals to the township to include in the application?
I don't believe we have any objection.
So there are no physical approvals, actual written approvals at this point. The use, the permit by rule by the DEP. Go ahead.
Just,
Sorry, my name's
although-
Pete Haggis.
Thank you.
With Environmental Recovery Corporation. The permit by rule is a standard process that the DEP issues, so there is no actual application for it.
Okay.
So our plan is to operate under the permit by rule. Once the facility is up and running, we will propose an application for a full-scale residual waste permit at that point in time.
So I know in the past, LASA has written letters approving wastewater treatment.
I can get that then from.
Okay.
From us.
So you would have no problem making that a condition? Thank you.
Yep.
just to follow up on that, once you apply for, once you apply for the full approval, whatever you actually said it was from DEP, once you're up and running and you get that, I presume that is in writing?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's a 2-year process. So
okay, but for at least for the first one, once you get that, would you also, as a condition of, as Mr. Hansen had said, submit that to the township so that the township has at least some record to go on in case something transpires down the road? Thank you. Mr. Ruth, please.
Yes, thank you.
Proceed.
No, great questions, and that is part of the process. They wouldn't be able to operate, obviously, without getting both of those approvals and pre-approvals as they stand. The water or public water, public sewer, all public utilities currently service the property. The main thing with what this proposed use, that we're not proposing any expansion or other building improvements at this time. Everything is going to be operated completely within the existing structures. All of the operation will take place indoors. There will be no type of external type of storage or anything like that of the actual wastewater. There likely will be an increase in traffic by approximately 4 more trucks to the property per day. Currently, what the pre-approval amount is the 25,000 gallon per day limit. Once, and Mr. Hagee can correct me if I'm wrong here and we'll jump in, once all of the discharge parameters and everything else have been met, at that point they would have the option of going up to 50,000. I believe that would be about a 2 to 3 year timing period before that would occur. Is that correct?
not necessarily.
Okay.
So that could happen within a short amount of time. I would say within a year potentially, but it could go longer. It all depends upon how fast the system's up and running. As much as we can prove to LASA that we're meeting their discharge parameters. There is an absolute cap though from LASA's perspective that we cannot go beyond 50,000 gallons per day.
And as I said, all of the transportation, everything would be going into behind closed doors where all of the treatment would take place at the facility.
Can I,
Mr. Hansen?
Mr. Ruth, so you're saying 4 trucks per day?
4 additional trucks per day. There are also trucks there currently that are basically arrive and then leave during the day.
They have nothing to do with this wastewater treatment,
That's
right?
correct.
So are you using a typical 3,500 gallon tandem axle tractor or truck, or are you using tractor trailer tankers?
7,000 gallon tanker trailers.
So you're saying that 50,000 gallons a day, correct?
As an absolute maximum. But
so that would
we're
be
purchasing the discharge limit through LASA. So the first round is only 25,000 gallons.
And I understand that, but to go to 50,000 a day, that would be at 7,000 gallons per tanker. That's 7 trucks,
right,
as opposed to what you just testified as to 4.
Correct. So until at this point in time, with what we're applying for right now is only the 25,000 gallon capacity. So
but you have a potential to go to 7.
Yes, which would require, we obviously understand it would require us to come back and have more discussion with you at that point.
But to follow up with Mr. Hanson just said, when you say 4 more vehicles or trucks per day, that's 4 more over what is presently operating at the site?
In the industrial park as a whole, what's operating out of the site today, the site physically is just a home base for our personnel and our equipment for a division of our organization. So everyone shows up, punches in a time clock at that location, and then departs and goes to customer sites from there.
So what you're saying for the industrial site, it's 4 more trucks
Into the industrial park.
into the industrial park. And so as Mr. Hanson said, theoretically then, should and if you go to 50,000, you're going to go approximately 4 more trucks of this size. Okay, thank you.
Now, let me follow that up again. Based on what I saw in your application, I didn't see any, you're looking for approval for this site with the potential to go to 50,000 gallons a day, correct?
That is correct. But again, right at this very moment in time, we're not looking to go to 50,000 gallons. We're starting with 25.
I understand that, but why not just do it all at one time, be done with it?
If you would be willing to approve that, we would absolutely be willing to accept that, I guess is a good way to phrase that. All we're saying, presently, all that is anticipated in the short term and all legally we are allowed to do based on what LASA's requirements are up to the 4 trucks per day. We would, if the zoning hearing board would be willing to grant it could be up to 8 that could happen. The 50,000 is our target. It is a very reachable and achievable target. It might be a very short amount of time. It could be a little bit longer, but the goal at the end of the day is to get up to the 50,000, which would increase the truck traffic by 4 more additional trucks up to 8.
And I can't speak for the rest of the board, but based on your application and what you submitted, I was coming here granting you the potential to 50,000 gallons.
Understood, and that's essentially what we are requesting. I think it was a clarification on what we're actually permitted right now to do. That's correct, 50,000 per day.
But I would again ask that be conditioned based on approval with a letter submitted to the township from LASA going to 50.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
And can I just follow up with that real quick? So you're saying that LASA requires you to only request from this board the 25,000 at this point? Or are you saying, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. LASA is only allowing ERC to transport the 25,000 gallons per day. There is the opportunity to go up to the 50. So just to clarify, our request is to go up to 50, but presently we can only accept the 25.
So they don't restrict you from applying to this board for up to 50 at this time?
That is correct,
okay.
yes.
Yeah. All right.
Our attendance here has no bearing on LASA. Our attendance here is due to the zoning issues that we have currently with the way the property is situated in the enterprise.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, so as we said, the use is not provided. It is located within an industrial park. So when looking at the specific intent of the E zone, it is to drive truck heavy kind of type of uses away from residences, neighborhoods, parks, and other type of areas like we are doing in this instance. So that's why I really feel and hope that you do as well, that the enterprise district, although not specifically permitting this by right, is really the most logical of areas to be when it comes to this type of use. It will not detract from any of the neighboring properties. As we said, being an industrial zone, there is common truck traffic throughout the day there. And in fact, that is one of the main types of traffic that you will see on that road. There are plenty of adequate facilities, again, not proposing any type of an increase in the footprint or impervious surface or to do anything that would require that type of permitting. It is all within the building and within the structure itself. We are going to comply with all of your Article 3, 4, and 5 requirements on the map itself, which was attached to the zoning application. You'll see in the upper right, it does list the zoning data, such as minimum lot size, your minimum lot width, your minimum front yard, side yard, rear yard setbacks, as well as lot coverage and maximum building height. There will be no modification or any type of request to modify what those are because, again, we're not exceeding or not really adding on to what is currently there for that footprint. No additional access is going to be required for this use, so we're not proposing any additional street widening or anything like that, because the roads are perfectly suited to handle the increase of up to 8 additional trucks per day. And really, it's going to comply and be in harmony with how that enterprise district is meant to be developed, to focus the development for the heavy uses away from your neighborhoods and other recreational districts and keep it in that area. The operation will be approximately from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. No operations on the weekends. All noise will be kept to a minimum because it will be within the structure. So there should not be any extra noise that would be generating beyond what is currently existing at the facility in light of the fact that it is going to be contained within the building. And lastly, there will be no impact on the growing together, the comprehensive plan, for Central Lancaster County. What we are proposing, again, is in line with how we feel the township meant to develop that enterprise district by keeping that truck traffic and those heavier uses away from the other uses that you're trying to protect. I will give a little bit of information, or ask Mr. Hagees to do that in terms of how they're going to screen the non-hazardous waste, make sure it is non-hazardous and non-municipal waste, and I will ask him to touch on that now, if that's okay.
Before you go on your application, it says the landowner is LWM Enterprises.
That's correct.
The applicant is Environmental Recovery Corporation. Is this a DBA or is this?
So LWM, the owner is the president of ERC.
Okay.
So we lease that property from LWM Enterprises.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other questions, I'll have him elaborate on that process.
So I can go in deep detail, or I can keep it short and sweet, and I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah.
So our company has been in operation for 33 years here in Lancaster. We operate off the Manheim Pike, so we're very familiar with the processes of wastewater treatment. The essential scenario is trucks would arrive at our facility. We would take a pre-sample of that truck, run it through a laboratory to ensure that it meets all of our acceptance parameters based upon our permit, whether it be permit by rule or the DEP residual waste permit. Once we determine that it meets all those characteristics, we then would offload, treat the waste to the discharge parameters that last one set before us. Pretty simple process. Our laboratory in Lancaster is a state accredited lab, so we do have a very good idea. Nothing goes through our facility without first going through a QA/QC process.
I guess if any of the waste did exceed any of those thresholds, what would happen to it?
So if the parameters are not met from a non-hazardous perspective, i.e. the permit by rule scenario, that waste would then be transferred over to the Manheim Pike facility where it could be handled appropriately. If we deem it hazardous at that point, the vehicle or the truck would be rejected back to either the generator or to an approved hazardous disposal facility. That was short and sweet for you.
I like it.
So I think with that, if there's any questions from the board, we would just submit the exhibit for your consideration. Again, happy to answer any questions that you might have in relation to that.
Okay. Your application, I think we went through this. Everything that you were going to have as exhibits are part of your application. Application is made part of the record, so we don't need any additional exhibits. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Understands. As long as Cheryl knows what's going on, that's fine. Okay, gentlemen. No, she has everything also.
She runs the meeting.
Yeah, actually, I only speak. She runs the meeting. Questions, gentlemen? Mr. Hanson.
Mr. Back, township, yay, nay on this, or no feeling either way on this facility?
No feeling either way.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant?
So just to clarify, because based on your application, you're looking at approval to do this as a non-conform or use not provided for.
That is correct.
And you want to do the potential to 50,000 gallons a day, provided you have LASSA's approval. Right. And you are willing to accept as conditions a letter from LASA saying you can go to 25. And if you want to go to 50, you would need a second letter from LASA to the township, correct?
Yes, that's just a difference of writing LASA.
And the maximum trucks per day would be approximately 7, correct? Tractor trailers? 8. So you would start with 4, and then the most you would have would be 8.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, gentlemen? None. Mr. Haggis? Yes. It was stated that there would be no storage of the wastewater outside the building. What about storage of other material? I presume you're using chemicals and different things?
Everything will be stored indoors.
So there will be no outside storage except for typical municipal trash?
Yes, vehicles, I mean, that's it.
Yeah, but I'm talking about.
As it relates to the wastewater treatment process, no, nothing will be stored outside.
Okay. Also, when you're saying about the vehicles bringing the wastewater to you, once they drop their loads at your facility, or is that done outside or inside the facility?
So it will all be, well, the trucks will be parked outside, but all of the offloading stations and everything, all the piping is indoors. So truck will back to a door and everything's in containment. We'll maintain inside the building.
Okay. Also, once you treat this wastewater, it is discharged into LASA. Is there any other byproducts? So
I take that back. There may be solids that then get filter pressed, create a cake that would go into a dumpster or a roll off inside the building, and then that gets transported to Modern facility in York.
Okay.
Or Fry Farms.
So literally there is potential for a non-hazard solid waste.
Going outbound, yes.
That's going outbound. All your waste coming in is liquefied. Okay.
Through the chemical process, you can take a glass of clear water and treat it and get solids out of it. So
correct.
That's the process. So
understand. Okay. Nate, any questions of the witness?
I don't have any questions.
Jason? None. Is there anyone in the audience and or on Zoom that have any questions of the applicant? Seeing none. Is there anyone in the audience and or on Zoom that have any comments to make pro and or con for this application? Seeing none. Mr. Hanson.
So, Mr. Haggis, so with the solid waste, and that would be outbound traffic, of course, how many trucks do you expect a month per that? 1 a week, 1, 2 a month?
Hard to say based upon what we don't know at this point, what would be coming in. Right. I would say it's safe to say maybe 1 a week.
Thank you.
Mr. Ruth, before I ask this question, we're going to stand at ease for a second. I need to ask our solicitor a question.
This all looks really unpaved, undeveloped.
No screening, no, anything where the spill, it goes right into the ground.
Yeah, I don't know how old that building is, but it's been there.
When I look at the building above, I see screening.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a lot we could, since they're not.
Yeah, it's inside the building. I just wonder why the site isn't a little bit better paved.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
There's only one way in that looks like it is.
Yeah, the main access there does.
And then when it gets back here,
I guess there's a front there too. Is that what
yeah, but that also looks unpaved. I mean, I can't tell. You can't tell easily from this. Yeah. There's certainly no screening of any kind, but I don't know if it's required in the zone.
It might not be.
Could be the lots are those long, skinny ones. This one especially.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this.
Thank you, everyone. We're back on the record. I appreciate your patience. Mr. Ruth, anything else you'd like before we conclude this case?
Nothing more. Thank you very much for
Okay.
your time.
You got another question?
Yeah.
Mr. Hanson.
So, Mr. Sturgis or Mr. Beck, this is going to be a permit by rule facility, correct? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so which means you don't need an individual permit unless they're creating an environmental problem or in violation of the regulations. Does that change anything if they have to go to a permit? Or is it still approved under this requirement, under the zoning?
I think that's a question for Jason, because it really depends on how they would change it, because right now they're doing a facility that would be directly discharging into the LASA system. If they would require a DEP permit now, under that assumption, they would no longer be discharging into the LASA system.
That's not correct, is it?
That's incorrect. Okay.
With permit by rule, basically states that we can handle water as long as it has less than 1% petroleum in it, which is what we intend to handle right out of the gate. Should we decide or elect to move forward with a residual waste permit, which is similar to what we currently hold over in Manheim Pike, allows us to handle anything that's non-hazardous and deemed by the state of Pennsylvania as a residual waste. So at that point in time, we would still be discharging to LASAs for the wastewater treatment that we're generating, and then any other byproducts, mainly oil, would be then consolidated and transferred over to the facility in Lancaster.
So basically, any waste, hazardous waste, would be removed from rejected and taken over to Manheim Pike.
So if it's a hazardous waste, it's rejected. Our company is not permitted to handle hazardous waste. We can transport it, but we cannot touch it or treat it. So it gets shifted to another facility elsewhere.
Back up. You said you're allowed to transport up to 1%.
Petroleum is not deemed in the state of Pennsylvania as hazardous waste.
Right, I understand that. So what would determine that you would need a permit at that point? Just because you violated rules, or?
If we actually intend to apply for a permit,
okay,
so we can then treat waste streams that are outside of what falls under the permit by rule.
What does that do with your approvals from LASA at that point?
It does not change our approvals with LASA. We still have discharge parameters that we have to abide by. So we will continue to treat the water in the same fashion that we would be treating it prior to with the permit by rule, discharging that same quality water to LASA, and anything that does not meet that criteria, not because it's hazardous, but because it does not meet discharge parameters, would be then transported to our facility in Lancaster.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Nothing else? Okay, gentlemen, we will conclude testimony in case number 2431. There's no administrative notice to take into account, and there are no exhibits to be included. All oral and written testimony and application will be made part of the record. With that, gentlemen, I will listen to a motion in case number 2431, if there is one at this time.
Mr. Chairman, case number 2431, make a motion to grant their request for a special exception pertaining to Article 1, Section 270-1.9 for a use not provided for, to allow them to operate a wastewater treatment facility at the property located at 300 Richardson Drive, Lancaster, PA 17603, with the following conditions. Number one, all operations will be inside existing building. Number two, approval letter from LASA for 25,000 gallons a day will be submitted to the township. And if applicant goes to 50,000 gallons a day, the second letter from LASA approving that will also be submitted to the township. Number three, any Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection permits, a copy will be submitted to the township. And number four, and I know it's all supposedly the same company, but I would like a letter from LWM Enterprises submitted to the township saying you have permission to be applying for this special exemption, since it is two separate companies. And number five would be our standard conditions.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Hanson in case number 2431 to grant the request for a special exception to Article 1, Section 270-1.9 for uses not provided for within the ordinance for the operation of a wastewater treatment facility at the property of 3000 Richardson Drive, Lancaster. 300 Richardson Drive, Lancaster, PA 17603. With the following conditions. One, that all operations pertaining to this wastewater treatment will be conducted inside the building. Two, that the applicant will supply a letter to the township from LASA pertaining to the allowable 25,000 gallons per day discharge into their system. And should the applicant decide to go to 50,000 gallons per day, the applicant will submit a second letter to the township stipulating or stating that LASA has granted the approval for the additional discharge. Three, that the applicant will supply a letter to the township from the Department of Environmental Protection indicating any permits that were applied for and granted by the department to the applicant. Four, that the applicant will submit a letter from LWM Enterprises indicating that the owner of record agrees to the application request for the wastewater treatment facility at 300 Richardson Drive. And five, the standard conditions attached by this board on decisions of this board.
That's good.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bingham. Discussion, gentlemen? Seeing none, Mr. Hanson?
In favor.
Mr. Kyle?
In favor.
Mr. Bingham?
In favor.
And I also vote in favor. Your request in case number 2431 has been granted with the conditions as indicated. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Nate, case, please.
Case number 2432, Colleen Herco at 1561 Stony Battery Road, seeking a special exception for daycare services family.
Okay. Is Herco here or her representative?
Yes, I'm Ms. Herco.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom that wants to be a party to this case? Seeing none. Ms. Herco, please state your name and address for the record and present your case.
Colleen Herco, 1561 Stony Battery Road in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, 17601. I would like to open a family child care in my home. I kind of surveyed the community and saw a real need for high quality early childhood education that is affordable and run by somebody with a lot of experience. I have nearly 15 years of childcare experience, including 7 years working as a public school teacher. I have my early childhood education degree from Towson. That's my bachelor's. And I also have my master's in special education. I worked at SDOL last year and I moved here from Nashville. So you can see I'm on Stony Battery Road, which is a main road, but our driveway is long enough and kind of curves around the back of our house. So any parent can pull all the way in off of Stony Battery and turn around so they don't have to back out onto the road if there's traffic. And I also have staggered times for parent drop-off, so I won't have all families dropping off or picking up at the same time.
Is that it?
I think so.
Okay, gentlemen, questions for the applicant? Mr. Hanson.
Ms. Herco, you said in your application that you're only going to have a maximum of 6 children. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you see that?
Okay.
Do you see that expanding at all, or are you going to hold this to a maximum of 6 forever?
It will be a maximum of 6 forever. That is the maximum allowed by the state. I will be fully licensed.
So you will have a license from the state, correct?
Yes.
Would you
processing.
Agree that as a condition, if the board was to approve this, that you would submit a copy of the license to the township?
Absolutely. I'm expecting it in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
I think I remember.
1 second. Don't count on it the way the state's.
No. I won't hold my breath.
According to your application, your drop-off and pickup times would be staggered between 7 and 8 and 4 and 5.
Yes, that's correct.
You don't see any other times happening there?
My operating hours will be from 7 to 5. I could possibly have some drop-offs more like 8:30, but I won't have anything later than 5 o'clock or earlier than 7.
So everybody would be out there by 5
Yes.
o'clock.
Can I interrupt you?
I don't know, can you?
Yes. Okay. Just because she was a teacher doesn't mean you have to correct my English. There is that possibility that someone could be running late for whatever reason that I presume you're not going to kick the child out on the street.
No, I probably wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Well, whether you're allowed to or do is 2 different things. So basically what you're saying is that your hours of operation are from 7 to 5, but there could be a time when somebody would be coming late because they get tied up in traffic, they get tied up at work, just so that should any person complain because these cars are coming later than whatever, the township knows that normal operating procedure is 7 to 5, but there are those exceptions, correct?
That is correct. There are some late fees to kind of incentivize coming to get your child on time.
I understand.
But hypothetically, you know, traffic does happen, accidents happen, so.
That's, you know, emergencies come up that
Of
something
course.
happens. Okay, thank you, sorry.
So in the picture that's up there now,
Yes.
Mr. Beck, could you blow that up a little bit, please? Perfect. I know this is a family daycare, which is a special exception use, but to me, this is also an in-home business.
Yes.
How much of the house is going to be used for the daycare?
So I will be using my front room and dining room.
Can you show me what's at on the house?
Am I able to, is this like a laser pointer?
Point back there.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's what you were saying. Okay. Okay. So it's kind of this front section of the house. This part here is, it goes all the way to the back. So kind of that section will be the daycare. And then this is our dining room, which will also be a little bit of daycare use there.
So that's the only part of the house is going to be used.
Yeah. So our bathroom is upstairs. So a tiny space upstairs as well.
Any idea on what your square footage is going to be used?
So I have my, like, the size of the rooms. And I did have it written down for a different application, the exact square footage, but I don't know it off the top of my head. The main room is 12 by 22 and the secondary room is 12 by 14.
And what's the total square footage of the house?
That is a great question also. That I also, see, I have all of my kind of, I can tell you what size every room is.
If everyone can bear with me, I'll see if I can find it on the tax assessment records.
Thank you, John. While he's looking that up, how can we go back to that picture that was up there? Perfect. The play area.
Yes.
How are can the children access that from the house without going outside a fenced-in area?
So you could get to it from inside of our house. There's many ways to get out there. So you could come out the front door and kind of go along, and there's a gate right here. You could also go along the side of the house. And then there is a deck over here that also leads to that area with a door from the house.
Is the play area going to be fenced in?
Yes, so our whole yard is fenced in, and I'll be fencing in that smaller play area so that when I stand in one spot, I can see everyone. Our yard is pretty big and has like a big shed on it, so I couldn't see everyone.
So you would, again, accept the condition that the play area must be fenced in before you start taking children?
Absolutely.
Just to follow up on that, doesn't your license require that the play areas be?
It does need to be enclosed. It can be a natural or a fenced barrier, but it does need to be enclosed. And our yard is fenced. I'm just fencing in a smaller part.
According to the pictures I see, and I can see that it looks like the yard is fully fenced in.
Yes.
But I'm assuming you don't want the kids down at the North 40.
Yeah. So based on the ages that I have interested in the daycare, I definitely need to keep my eye a little closer on them.
And you said this is what, newborns to 5? Or
yes. Mm-hmm.
You don't expect to go any age older than that?
No, I won't have any school age children. And one of the 6 is my own child. So there's really space for 5 other families or 5 other kids to drop off.
Thank you.
Any other questions, gentlemen? The only concern that I see with your application, and you semi-addressed it, Serco, was the entrance and exit from your property, the driveway. You said that, you know, parents may be able to turn around and pull out of your driveway. Stony Battery Road is a fairly busy thoroughfare. You know, I don't know how the township could enforce it, but would you be willing, and it won't be, I'm not making this as a condition, but to tell your clients that they must turn around and pull out, just for safety reasons, not only for your clients, but for the people who travel that road? It can be.
It's a tricky spot, and there's some trees that are hard to see around coming out of our
Yes.
driveway. So I will definitely make that kind of part of my contract, that you have to pull out head
Yes.
first.
Because the picture, the diagram of your property, it is big enough, large enough to, for even cars being parked there, to still have others that come in and turn around. Just some people don't like to turn around. And today with the backup cameras, more people are backing up than I think in the past would have. So as long as that's understandable and you're willing. The license that you are receiving from the state, that does have a maximum of 6 children on it.
Yes.
And as Mr. Hanson asked, that's all that you are asking for at this time. Do you see down the road, especially when your child is headed to school, that you would want to enlarge that or have an employee work for you?
No, I don't see that happening.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for clarification, and Colleen, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the Department of Public Welfare, the license she would receive is for 6 children unrelated to her.
Right.
So right now, I believe it's one of your children is counted as that, correct?
Yes. So if my child is under the age of 3, they count towards the 6, and he's just 7 months old. So he'll count for quite a while. When he's over the age of 3, he would not technically count in the numbers.
You could actually have 7.
Yes.
But
it would still be a maximum of 6.
Right.
Unrelated.
Individuals that are not related to you.
That's right.
Correct, which is what the license says, so thank you.
Mr. Beck, did you find a total square footage for this property? For the house?
For the property or for the house?
For the house.
So I have a diagram from the county property tax assessment that gives the dimensions for the house, visual, and then total living area is 2,022 square feet.
So with an in-home business, they're allowed 10%, 25%?
Was 25, I'm not 40. Sure. And if it's 25,
25%,
she falls under it
right.
easily.
40 is for.
If my calculations are correct, she's going to use 432 square feet. And Mr. Beck said that it's 2022.
You can learn how to use a calculator. I'd verify that.
You distrusting my old math?
Well, you are old school.
You said school.
Oh, come
It's cool to the end. I was waiting to see.
If
abuse us old people have to take, right, Cheryl?
Elder abuses.
He's using a calculator. It's taking longer than my phone.
Waiting for their answer.
For what?
On the total square footage, still 20, is it 25%?
We're still looking.
It still was taking you longer with the calculator.
Oh, not.
Go to the big book.
For home-based business, no impact is 25%.
Right. With impact is, well, that's not allowed in this particularly. 25%. So you're under the square footage. Okay. That's all I really needed to know. That's all I have.
Nate, did you say you had any questions?
I do not know.
Okay, Jason?
I do. Ma'am, your application it listed the criteria for a daycare family and said that you would meet that. There's additional criteria for outdoor play areas in Article 5 of the zoning ordinance. I don't know if you looked at those because you didn't list them on your application.
I did, and I think that what is listed on there is similar to what I have to do through the state, which is provide an outdoor space and some kind of enrichment activities outside, and which I will have developmentally appropriate toys and activities outside.
Okay, so so there's criteria: off-street parking areas should not be used for outdoor play areas. You would meet that. No area should be located or designed to disrupt normal activities of adjoining uses permitted within that zone. You'll meet that. Areas shall be enclosed completely by a minimum 4-foot high fence. So, okay. The area will be screened from adjoining residential uses. And so you would have some screening from other residential properties?
Yes.
Okay. And all the play areas shall have a landscape plan. You have some landscaping in the?
We do. Yep. We have, it's kind of just a regular backyard, really. It's just some grass and a few plants.
And lastly, shall provide a means, the play area shall have some shade, such as shade trees or pavilions. You meet that?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anyone in the audience or on Zoom have questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Anyone in the audience or on Zoom that have comments, pro or con, for this application? Seeing none. Ms. Herco, is there anything else you'd like to add before we conclude testimony?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, gentlemen, at this time, we will conclude testimony in case number 2432. There's no exhibits and or administrative notice that we have to take notice of. The application and all written and oral testimony will be part of the record. And with that, I will listen to a motion in case number 2432, if there is one.
Mr. Chairman. Case number 2432, the request of Colleen Herco for property located at 1561 Stony Battery Road, Lancaster, PA 17601. request for a special exception to section 270-3.5 D5 to allow for an in-home childcare. Make a motion to grant her request with the following conditions. Number one, a copy of the Pennsylvania license will be submitted to the township before you start this. Number two, because the property is fenced in and you have testified that you would be fencing in a smaller area for the play area, that has to be done before permit is issued. And three, even though I know your permit says 6 unrelated, you can't exceed that without coming back before us and our standard conditions.
Okay, motion by Mr. Hanson in case number 2432 to grant a special exception to 270-3.5 D5 to allow an in-home child care family, in-home family child daycare facility at 1561 Stony Battery Road with the following conditions. One, copy of the Pennsylvania state license shall be submitted to the township prior to accepting children. Two, that the play area that is to be used by this daycare facility shall be fenced in before accepting children. Three, although the license that Ms. Herco is applying for states that she is only allowed to have 6 children under her care, she will, if she wishes to expand, if she needs to, wants to expand, she will have to come back in front of this board. And 4, standard conditions that we place on approvals of applications. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kyle. Discussion, gentlemen?
I'm going to vote in favor of your request. I would ask the township, however, this type of business is really an in-home business, and it may be a subsection under an in-home business with impact.
Mark, I completely understand where you're coming from. I wouldn't argue with that. The reason it's treated different is because Pennsylvania Department of Public Welfare treats them differently than, say, a beauty salon, barbershop, doctor's office, things like that. They have a higher set of standards that they have to meet from DPW.
And I understand that. What I was, I apologize, John, but what I was kind of gathering at is the square footage of the in-home residence. That should also be included, I think.
We kind of leave that up because Colleen, doesn't DPW require a certain amount of space in your home to be used?
Yes, there's a certain amount of square footage per child.
So, and that's what I'm.
Would limit it to 25%. It could severely impact somebody doing that.
But if we exceed the 25%, then we're really exceeding the residential capacity of the house.
I understand.
That's what I'm getting at.
Understood. It's just the way when this was put in and we separated daycare commercial and daycare family.
Right.
We understood that DPW's requirements are extremely stringent. And rather than to try and make the process harder or to make it more litigious than it has to be to reinstate or restate what DPW already requires, we kind of left that for DPW and then have this part for the overall control of the township.
Okay, and I just think maybe we need to look at that in the future because
Understood.
what you're doing is definitely a needed service here in the township. I'm not going to argue that point. I just think that we need to look at some of those things.
Noted.
Any other discussion, gentlemen?
If there is no other discussion, I'd just like if I could get some clarification or provide some clarification. The copy of the DPW license, I would add to the motion that it be redacted from any personal information since it would become part of public record. And then instead of the fence being installed prior to a permit, prior to a permanent CO being issued.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yep. Okay, that's so noted. Jason, you got that?
Yes.
Okay, and I agree. That is, a pretty good statement about the personal information on the license. Yeah, that should not be made public. And the fencing part, no issue there. Anything else? Seeing none, Mr. Hanson?
In favor.
Kyle?
In favor.
Mr. Bingham?
In favor.
And I'll also vote in favor. Your request for a family daycare, child daycare center has been granted with the conditions so stated.
Thank you very much.
So good luck.
Thank you.
Any other business, Nate?
There's nothing, no.
Gentlemen, this Friday is the last day, and lady, excuse me. This Friday is the last day for cases, but with that being said, we will have one case next month. So it looks like on the 16th, we will have a hearing.
So you don't have anything else, Nate?
Not at this time, he does not. I had asked him that earlier.
Awesome.
But he has to Friday.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to bring this up now, but I noticed one thing on the minutes that were approved. The decision in case number 2430, the dissents were from Mr. Hanson and Mr. Kyle.
We missed that.
The dissents, yeah, were from Mr. Hanson, Mr. Kyle, Mr. Hurd, and Mr. Bingham voted in favor of the motion. I guess maybe I could be reading it wrong. That Mr. Hurd and Mr. Bingham voted against the application.
Yes, we did.
So if it's suggesting that you voted against the application, then I apologize. I guess it's correct. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I voted against that.
Okay, it's conclude testimony. First of all, can you be here next? Everybody else, 16th looks okay?
Probably will not be here. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. We have to find out about Mr. Luce. We'll go with that. Okay, with that, then we will adjourn this meeting. We off the record? Are we off the mic?
I was against